Somehow, she'd managed to change clothes. She wore a rose-coloured pantsuit, lots of gold jewellery, and a cashmere coat, so she looked like a wealthy businesswoman. Ignoring the cop, she sized up my appearance and wrinkled her nose. "Carter, I told you not to wear those horrible falconry clothes. Honestly, you look like you've been sleeping in the wild." She took out a handkerchief and made a big production of wiping my face while the policeman stared. Ma'am, he finally managed. "Is this your nephew?" Bast lied. "I'm so sorry, officer. We're heading to Memphis for a falconry competition. I hope he hasn't caused any problems. We're going to miss our flight." The falcon can't fly." Bast giggled. "Well, of course it can fly, officer. It's a bird." His face reddened. "I mean on a plane." "Oh, we have the paperwork." To my amazement, she pulled out an envelope and handed it to the cop, along with our tickets. "I see," the cop said. He looked our tickets over. "You bought a first-class ticket for your falcon?" "It's a black kite, actually," Bast said. "But yes, it's a very temperamental bird. A prize winner, you know. Give it a coach seat and try to offer it pretzels, and I won't be held responsible for the consequences. No, we always fly first class, don't we, Carter?" Yeah, Aunt Kitty." She flashed me a look that said, "I'll get you for that." Then she went back to smiling at the cop, who handed back our tickets and said his paperwork. "Well, if you'll excuse us, officer, that's a very handsome uniform, by the way. Do you work out?" Before he could respond, Bass grabbed my arm and hurried me towards the security checkpoint. "Don't look back," she said under her breath. As soon as we turned the corner, Bass pulled me aside by the vending machines. "The set animal is close," she said. "We've got a few minutes at best. What's wrong with Sadie?" "She can't," I stammered. "I don't know exactly." "Well, we'll have to figure it out on the plane." "How did you change clothes?" I asked. "And the document for the bird?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, mortal minds are weak. That document is an empty ticket sleeve, and my clothes haven't really changed. It's just a glamour." I looked at her more closely, and I saw she was right. Her new clothes flickered like a mirage over her usual leopard skin bodysuit. As soon as she pointed it out, the magic seemed flimsy and obvious. "We'll try to make it to the gate before the set animal," she said. "It would be easier if you store your things in the duat." "What? You don't really want to tote that box around under your arm, do you? Use the duat as a storage bin." "How?" Bast rolled her eyes. "Honestly, what do they teach magicians these days?" "We had about 20 seconds of training." "Just imagine a space in the air like a shelf or a treasure chest." "A locker?" I asked. "I've never had a school locker." "Fine, give it a combination lock, anything you want. Imagine opening the locker with your combination, then shove the box inside. When you need it again, just call it to mind and it will appear." I was skeptical, but I imagined a locker. I gave it a combination, 13, 32, 33. Retired numbers for the Lakers, obviously Chamberlain, Johnson, Abdul-Jabbar. I held out my dad's magic box and let it go. Sure, it would smash to the floor. Instead, the box disappeared. "Cool," I said. "You sure I can get it back?" "No," Bass said. "Now come on." 22. Leroy meets the Locker of Doom. They'd never gone through security with a live bird of prey before. I thought it would cause a hold-up, but instead the guards moved us into a special line. They checked our paperwork. Bass smiled a lot, flirted with the guards, and told them they must be working out, and they waved us through. Bass's knives didn't set off the alarm, so maybe she'd stored them in the duat. The guards didn't even try to put Sadie through the x-ray machine. I was retrieving my shoes when I heard a scream from the other side of security. Bass cursed in Egyptian. "We were too slow." I looked back and saw the set animal charging through the terminal, knocking passengers out of its way. Its weird rabbit ears swiveled back and forth. Foam dripped from its curved, toothy snout, and its forked tail lashed around, looking for something to sting. "Moose!" a lady screamed. "Rabid moose!" Everyone started screaming, running in different directions and blocking the set animal's path. Moose? I wondered. Bast shrugged. No telling what mortals will perceive. Now the idea will spread by power of suggestion. Sure enough, more passengers started yelling, Moose! And running around as the set animal ploughed through the lines and got tangled up in the stanchions. Security officers surged forward, but the set animal tossed them aside like rag dolls. Come on, Bast told me. I can't just let it hurt these people. We can't stop it. But I didn't move. I wanted to believe Horus was giving me courage, or that maybe the past few days had finally woken up some dormant bravery gene I'd inherited from my parents. But the truth was scarier. This time, nobody was making me take a stand. I wanted to do it. People were in trouble because of us. I had to fix it. I felt the same kind of instinct I felt when Sadie needed my help, like it was time for me to step up. And yes, it terrified me, but it also felt right. Go to the gate, I told Bast. Take Sadie, I'll meet you there. What? Carter! Go! I imagined opening my invisible locker. 13, 32, 33. I reached out my hand, but not for my dad's magic box. I concentrated on something I'd lost in Luxor. It had to be there. For a moment I felt nothing. Then my hand closed around a hard leather grip, and I pulled my sword out of nowhere. Bast's eyes widened. Impressive. Get moving, I said. It's my turn to run interference. You realize it'll kill you. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Now scat. Bast took off at top speed, Sadie flapping to stay balanced on her arm. A shot rang out. I turned and saw the set animal plough into a cop who just fired at its head, to no effect. The poor cop flew backwards and toppled over the metal detector gate. Hey, moose! I screamed. The set animal locked its glowing eyes on me. Well done, Horus said. We will die with honour. Shut up, I thought. I glanced behind me to make sure Bast and Sadie were out of sight. Then I approached the creature. So you've got no name? I asked. They couldn't think of one ugly enough. The creature snarled, stepping over the unconscious policeman. Set animal is too hard to say, I decided. I'll call you Leroy. Apparently Leroy didn't like his name. He lunged. I dodged his claws and managed to smack him in the snout with the flat of my blade, but that barely fazed him. Leroy backed up and charged again, slavering, baring his fangs. I slashed at his neck, but Leroy was too smart. He darted to the left and sank his teeth into my free arm. If it hadn't been for my makeshift leather arm guard, I would have been minus one arm. As it was, Leroy's fangs still bit clear through the leather. Red-hot pain shot up my arm. I yelled, and a primal surge of power coursed through my body. I felt myself rising off the ground, and the golden aura of the hawk warrior forming around me. The set animal's jaws were prized open so fast that it yelped and let go of my arm. I stood, now encased in a magical barrier twice my normal size, and kicked Leroy into the wall. Good, said Horus. Now dispatch the beast to the netherworld. Quiet, man, I'm doing all the work. I was vaguely aware of security guards trying to regroup, yelling into their walkie-talkies and calling for help. Travellers were still screaming and running around. I heard a little girl shout, Chicken man, get the moose! You know how hard it is to feel like an extreme falcon-headed combat machine when somebody calls you Chicken man. I raised my sword, which was now at the centre of a 10-foot-long energy blade. Leroy shook the dust off his cone-shaped ears and came at me again. My armoured form might have been powerful, but it was also clumsy and slow. Moving it around felt like moving through jello. Leroy dodged my sword strike and landed on my chest, knocking me down. He was a lot heavier than he looked. His tail and claws raked against my armour. I caught his neck in my glowing fists and tried to keep his fangs away from my face. But everywhere he drawled, my magical shield hissed and steamed. I could feel my wounded arm going numb. Alarms blared. More passengers crowded towards the checkpoint to see what was happening. I had to end this soon, before I passed out from pain or more mortals got hurt. I felt my strength fading, my shield flickering, Leroy's fangs were an inch from my face, and Horus was offering no words of encouragement. Then I thought about my invisible locker in the duet. I wondered if other things could be put in there too, large, evil things. I closed my hands around Leroy's throat and wedged my knee against his ribcage. Then I imagined an opening in the duet, in the air right above me. 13, 32, 33. I imagined my locker opening as wide as it could go. With my last bit of strength, I pushed Leroy straight up. He flew towards the ceiling, his eyes widening with surprise as he passed through an unseen rift and disappeared. "Where'd it go?" someone yelled. "Hey, kid," another guy called. "You okay?" My energy shield was gone. I wanted to pass out, but I had to leave before the security guys came out of their shop and arrested me for moose fighting. I got to my feet and threw my sword at the ceiling. It disappeared into the duet. Then I wrapped the torn leather around my bleeding arm as best I could and ran for the gates. I reached our flight just as they were closing the door. Apparently, word of the Chicken Man incident hadn't spread quite yet. The gate agent gestured back towards the checkpoint as she took my ticket. "What's all the noise up there?" "A moose got through security," I said. "It's under control now." Before she could ask questions, I raced down the jetway. I collapsed into my seat across the aisle from Bast. Sadie, still in kite form, was pacing in the window seat next to me. Bast let out a huge sigh of relief. "Carter, you made it. But you're hurt. What happened?" I told her. Bast's eyes widened. "You put the set animal in your locker? Do you know how much strength that requires?" "Yeah," I said. "I was there." The flight attendant started making her announcements. Apparently the security incident hadn't affected our flight. The plane pushed back from the gate on time. I doubled forward in pain, and only then did Bass notice how bad my arm was. Her expression turned grim. "Hold still," she whispered something in Egyptian, and my eyes began to feel heavy. "You'll need to sleep to heal that wound," she said. "But if Leroy comes back?" "Oh, nothing." Bass studied me as if seeing me for the first time. "That was extraordinarily brave, Carter. Facing the set monster. You have more tomcat in you than I realized." Thanks." She smiled and touched my forehead. "We'll be in the air soon, my tomcat. Sleep." I couldn't really object. Exhaustion washed over me, and I closed my eyes. Naturally, my soul decided to take a trip. I was in bar form, circling above Phoenix. It was a brilliant winter morning. The cool desert air felt good under my wings. The city looked different in the daylight. A vast grid of beige and green squares dotted with palm trees and swimming pools. Stark mountains rose up here and there like chunks of the moon. The most prominent mountain was right below me, a long ridge with two distinct peaks. What had Set's minion called it on my first soul visit? Camelback Mountain? Its foothills were crowded with luxury homes, but the top was barren. Something caught my attention. A crevice between two large boulders, and a shimmer of heat coming from deep within the mountain, something that no human eye would have noticed. I folded my wings and dove towards the crevice. Hot air vented out with such force that I had to push my way through. About 50 feet down, the crevice opened up, and I found myself in a place that simply couldn't exist. The entire inside of the mountain had been hollowed out. In the middle of the cavern, a giant pyramid was under construction. The air rang with the sound of pickaxes. Hordes of demons cut blood-red limestone into blocks and hauled it to the middle of the cave, where more swarms of demons used ropes and ramps to hoist the blocks into place, the way my dad said the Giza pyramids were built. But the Giza pyramids had taken like 20 years each to complete. This pyramid was already halfway done. There was something odd about it too, and not just the blood-red colour. When I looked at it, I felt a familiar tingle, as if the whole structure were humming with a tone, no, a voice I almost recognised.